This is India. Crowded trains packed like a survival challenge, slums stretching longer than highways, overloaded scooters carrying an entire family plus their dog, traffic jams that last longer than some relationships, streets full of chaos, struggle, and hustle, all mixed with culture, noise, and determination. And now, this is China. Bullet trains flying at 300 plus kilometers per hour. Skyscrapers that look more futuristic than sci-fi movies. Massive highways, robotics factories, automated ports, hyper-modern airports, spotless metros, and cities popping up almost overnight, as if someone pressed build infrastructure like a video game cheat code. So the question is, why is India poor and China becoming rich? Why are countries like India, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America still struggling with poverty, inequality, and slow development, while China is transforming into a fully developed global power? Why is it that some nations like the United States, Japan, South Korea, Germany, France, and the UK enjoy extremely high standards of living, clean cities, efficient infrastructure, strong currencies, global influence, and powerful militaries, while countries like India, Southeast Asia, Africa, Latin America, and most of the global South struggle with poverty, weak industries, unstable governments, corruption, and fragile economies? Why are there more poor countries than rich ones? This question is older than modern economics itself. And trust me, the answer is not because people in poor countries don't work hard or because rich countries are smarter. If that were true, India wouldn't have the most engineers, doctors, and IT developers working abroad, and China wouldn't have built the world's supply chain. So what makes these developed countries different from the rest? Is it democracy? No, because China isn't democratic. Is it natural resources? No, because Africa has some of the richest resource deposits in the world. Is it population? No, because many small countries are much richer than huge ones. So what's the real reason? Well, to understand it, we have to talk about something many people don't realize exists: the American Empire. In this video, we're going to explore why India, Southeast Asia, Latin America, and most of the global South remain poor while China is rapidly becoming a developed country. And trust me, this topic goes far beyond economics. It involves power, history, politics, war, technology, and something many economists never mention. To understand today's world, we must understand that the United States is not just a country or a superpower, it is an empire. Not an empire like ancient Rome, with colonies and emperors walking around in sandals, but a modern empire built through military power, 800 plus bases worldwide, financial dominance, the US dollar system, global trade rules, technology control, media, and cultural influence. This empire determines which countries are allowed to become rich and which must remain consumers. Countries like Japan, South Korea, Singapore, and Taiwan, and even Western Europe are not fully sovereign in their foreign policy. They align with the empire and follow its rules. If the empire says sanction someone, they sanction. If the empire says stop buying from someone, they stop. Their governments may look independent, but geopolitical independence? That's limited. Now, why does this matter? Because this empire can make or break economies. If a country behaves, the empire can pump in money, industries, and technology. If a country doesn't obey, it can be punished through sanctions, trade restrictions, currency manipulation, media campaigns, military pressure, diplomatic isolation. This isn't conspiracy, this is modern geopolitics 101. After World War II, the world was reorganized and one country emerged as the center of global power: the United States. The US dollar became the world's reserve currency. The world's oil trade became dollar-based, also known as the petrodollar system. Organizations like the World Bank, IMF, NATO, and WTO were built not just to cooperate, but to control. Through these systems, the American empire could decide which country gets investment, which country gets technology, which country gets access to global markets, and which country gets punished, isolated, or sanctioned. Countries inside the system, like Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore, were rewarded and rapidly industrialized. They received technology transfers, capital investment, preferential trade access, military protection, infrastructure funding, and billions, yes, billions of dollars in support during the Cold War era adsclete. South Korea alone received over $60 billion in US aid and technology assistance during the Cold War era, not including protected markets and industrial mentoring. Japan received so much investment that it rebuilt from nuclear destruction to economic superpower status in just 2 decades. Taiwan and Singapore became advanced manufacturing hubs not because they magically developed alone, but because they were plugged directly into the empire's economic system. Japan, South Korea, and Taiwan became rich, but with a catch. They have US military bases on their territory and no fully independent foreign policy. Then something interesting happened. The US decided to repeat the strategy, but this time with China. The plan was simple: invest billions into China, transfer Western industrial knowledge, move manufacturing there, make China rich, and eventually push China toward Western-style liberal democracy. In short, they tried to turn China into South Korea 2.0. But something unexpected happened. China took the money, took the technology, took the factories, and said, "Thank you. Now leave." Instead of becoming a loyal democratic ally, China strengthened the Communist Party, built the world's largest manufacturing base, and became the biggest challenge to US global power. That's why today there's constant tension, trade wars, military posturing, and global narratives against the Chinese Communist Party, because the empire feels betrayed. All the negative coverage, narratives, tensions, sanctions, trade wars, they did not appear randomly. They are a response to one fact: the empire helped create a rival. Why India and others weren't allowed to follow the same path? While Japan, South Korea, Taiwan, and Singapore were guided step by step into becoming advanced economies, India and the rest of the global South was left to figure everything out independently. And during the great manufacturing shift from the 1980s to the early 2000s, when Western companies moved production to Asia, guess where almost all of it went? China. Not India, not Latin America, not Africa, not Southeast Asia. Just China. Because China was useful, and India at that time wasn't. Regions like India, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America were historically capped in a different position. They weren't chosen to become industrial powerhouses, they were chosen to remain cheap labor zones, resource suppliers, and consumer markets. Because if too many countries industrialize, wages rise, competition increases, and the empire loses control. Sanctions are used as a weapon to stop countries like Iran, Venezuela, Russia, Cuba, and sometimes India or China from becoming fully independent economic powers. So when people ask why are there more poor countries than rich ones, the simple and uncomfortable answer is because the global system was designed that way. But the world is changing. We are now entering a multipolar world. This means instead of one superpower ruling everything, multiple powers are emerging. China, India, Russia, Brazil, possibly Iran, Turkey, South Africa, and Indonesia. Groups like BRICS are now de-dollarizing global trade, meaning more countries are trading in local currencies instead of US dollars. When this happens, Western sanctions lose power. And when sanctions lose power, countries can develop independently. This shift could finally allow regions that were historically held back, like India, Southeast Asia, Africa, and Latin America, to industrialize and grow without permission from a global empire. So what does this mean for the future? It means we are living in a historic transition. The old world, dominated by one empire, is weakening. A new world, shaped by multiple rising powers, is emerging. China is already becoming a superpower. India has the population, technology sector, military strength, and economic momentum to follow if it continues the right policies. Russia controls resources and military technology. Brazil controls agriculture and natural wealth. For the first time in centuries, the global South is gaining leverage. And maybe, just maybe, the next chapter of global development will not be written by an empire, but by billions of people who were never allowed to become rich before.